In this session of Vibe Cafe, Nick Redmark leads us into Dialectic and to Dialogos practice. What unfolded was an exploration of the virtue of patience.
Hooray! We have Christina with us, and that's so exciting.
Hello, Christina. Nice to meet you.
Hi. Likewise. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hi there.
So Christina, this is Nick and Vavi, both of whom I met via Twitter, and we've been hanging out a fair bit over the last couple of weeks. Christina, I met through James Baker's Intentional Society. Like we hung out for an hour and a half, early. What was it? Was it last week? Goodness.
2 days ago?
Oh,
Yeah,
was
two
it
days
2 days
ago.
ago?
Yeah.
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 And that was just so much fun. And so she
Yeah.
just popped back in, and here we are.
Mhm. Cool.
Now that we're all here, Nick, you want to give another another brief intro and sort of lead us
Yeah.
into the first
Christina,
practice?
are you fine trying this out?
Yes, I've done one of the Dialectic and Dialogos workshops with Vervaeke and the circling
Perfect.
folks. Yeah.
How much time ago?
A couple months ago.
Wow,
I'm
then
a
it's more
little,
fresh
yeah.
for you.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna say it's not very fresh, but yeah, I haven't practiced since, but I'm
Okay,
familiar.
right. Because I took the course in spring this year, and
Uh,
then I practiced it. Actually, I did practice it maybe 9 times, and then I stopped. So I'm a bit
uh,
rusty, but you can tell me because I think they evolve the practice with every workshop. So maybe you can jump in and say, actually, now you don't do that anymore.
okay, yeah, no, I will. I'll give real time feedback
All right,
where it fits.
cool. Well, I'm gonna make an attempt to introduce it without going. We decided to jump into it without going too much into the theory, but it's a stack of practices, and we're gonna start with 5 minutes of mindfulness, during which you will get centered, literally, with your back and then with your head. You're going to try to feel it, and then when you're ready, you can focus on the your breathing in your belly, and I'm gonna tell you when it's done.
announcement of the show. This is a very rare mix of Oxbow makes by Sabres Paradox. Enjoy.
All right. So what we've done now is meditation. In this framework, there would be a complementary practice which is called contemplation, and we are not going to do that today. But in principle, it's a practice that one can do alone and that complements meditation. I can link to it to options later. Now we're going to move to a kind of higher layer in the stack, which is the first practice that requires many people. It's a practice that comes from circling, a form of authentic relating. And so the exercise works like this. Someone begins, hello, hey Gavin. Someone starts by saying, in this moment, I notice, and then proceeds to describe some emotion, something that goes on with them. And then the next person says, hearing that, I notice. And then the next person says, hearing that, I notice. And I guess I'm going to define a round so we can do a few rounds. So I guess I'll start. Then in the order I see here, Buddy, Victor, Christina, Gavin, if you want to join in. And then, yes?
Before,
Victor?
Nick, would you be so kind as to see if you can't turn on the background noise reduction?
Do you hear a lot of background?
There's like an ongoing static.
Yeah. I'm hearing
So-
that, but is it from me?
I do not know. Might
So
be something
I-
for each of us to check. So we can do that by clicking on the up arrow next to the mic selector thing, scrolling to the bottom, and then seeing if the background noise reduction toggle is turned on.
It is, in my case.
Ah,
So someone reduced the noise, so good.
cool.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So to recap, I start saying, In this moment, I notice, and then I talk about something that I'm sensing, feeling in my body, and then body. Hearing that, I notice Victor. Hearing that, I notice Christina, Gavin, and then I start again, and we do a couple of rounds of that. All right. In this moment, I notice excitement in my body. It's like especially in my legs, I feel like some pulsating sensations. And I just noticed a bit of tension in my throat, which left as soon as I noticed it. Deep breath. I just settled in a little bit more.
Hearing that, I notice my own legs in the transition between the noise reduction and the welcoming Gavin. And I had changed my posture and I was no longer balanced. So I notice a desire to return to balance.
Yeah, hearing that, I notice my attention going to my own centeredness, and a little bit of a wobbly feeling. And yeah, I notice I'm enjoying this.
Hearing that, I feel a sense of expansion. I was feeling a number of sensations in the body, and the emanation turned into expansion.
Hearing that, I notice myself smiling. Deep breath again. I felt almost a lightness, a dizziness, and an excitement. And now I feel my heart beat very strongly. And I'm noticing some tension in my legs. And I desire to shift around.
Hearing that, I noticed my own shallowness of breath and some distractedness of attention. I feel my mind moving Mm.
And during that, I notice the body is feeling really comfortable. I notice a looking for places of tension. I notice like a return to checking whether I'm centered. I notice like deep breath doesn't seem really accessible. And I also notice tension in my eyes.
From person to person. You must always stay alert, and if you feel like you can sense coronavirus, get indoors, fast. If you're away from home,
Hearing that,
face first to the ground. In this position, the only cavity exposed is the anal duct,
I noticed
and that should not pose a problem so long as you're wearing trousers. When you're back
how
inside,
often
clean your hands with a strong disinfectant. And
my
snap
mind
as many
goes
antiseptic
to
napkins and toilet
name
rolls as
something
you can. You'll be needing these. If you don't
and
have
identify it.
cut a hole in your favorite chair and stick a bucket underneath. If you don't have chairs, dig a hole for yourself somewhere inside the house. During a coronavirus outbreak, anyone you see could be
Of
infected.
continual being.
This could be an occasion. This includes your teacher, even the nice couple you meet down the park. They could always be safe.
Okay.
Nice men like these who like to hang around
Next
children's playgrounds. This map looks nice. This map
layer of the stack contains a practice that is to be done separately, which is called Lectio Divina. It can be done individually or in groups. Just wanted to note that. Now we're going to move into dialectic, into Dialogos. Dialectic is the practice, Dialogos is what can emerge if it catches. All right. Now we're going to listen in to whether there is a virtue that we find relevant to us. And as a group, we're going to pick one virtue. So if you feel like there is one virtue that feels relevant to you, that you would like to explore, then name it, and we are going to move on with that.
Name the virtue of integrity.
All right. Okay.
Would you
So,
like to do a round of naming and choosing? Or
well, there are many ways of doing that. I'm fine with doing that. Actually, I like that a lot. If you feel that there is any other that feels burning and alive for you, just you feel free to name it. Otherwise, we're gonna go with integrity today.
I feel patience.
All right. Victor, Betty, what should we go with?
Patience.
All right. Which means that, Betty, you're gonna start, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna make a proposal about the nature of patience. And it's not about definitions, and it's not about things that you learned. It's more about an exploration, trying to say something about patience that feels relevant and alive to you. And the next person in the circle, which is Victor, is gonna actively listen to you, meaning what he does very well. He's gonna reflect what you do. He's gonna try to draw out what you're trying to say until you say, "I feel heard." And then what's gonna happen is Victor is gonna name what he appreciates from what you're saying, like from his perspective. And based on that, then he's gonna do his own proposal, like about the virtue, and then Christina is gonna do the reflecting part. All right, just summary: you make a proposal about the virtue of patience, something that feels alive to you, something that you would like to clarify in your mind, and Victor is gonna actively listen until you feel heard.
Is it a back and forth? Does Victor respond to me, or I just speak?
Well, you speak mainly, and if you want him to kind of help you ask some questions or rephrase, then I guess you let him speak. But the goal is for you to feel heard in the end of it. And Victor can kind of raise his hands when he feels that you're really like going on for a long time and might have an interesting question to ask or something like that. And it's up to you to then decide whether you want to give it that space. But now it's like now it's your space.
Love is patient. I feel patience is a posture. It is a way of greeting life. And sometimes it is challenged. And sometimes it is let go or forgotten. It is a joy to return to patience. It is quiet and soft.
I hear and love is patience. I hear as patience is something that is something that can be something that can be challenging or challenged as a tension between and a returning to as as patience is something that that we can come back to, or like notice when we're apart from that virtue.
Patience is a practice. Hmm.
Patience is as a practice is like not something that's cultivated or developed. It's like capacity.
I feel heard.
All right, just to repeat. Now, what you can do is, Victor, is name what you appreciate from your own standpoint, from the proposal, and then start leaping from there. You're gonna make your own proposal about patience.
What I appreciate in patience as such is a self-empathy for when I'm not not connecting with patience.
Sorry, just to clarify again. So the appreciation is about what she said, like what I appreciate about your proposal. So just to make sure it's clear.
That's right. Yeah. So what I appreciate about the proposal that patience is love and as a capacity, something that is like an okayness when, like, I fall out of patience. It's something that so I can feel empathy for myself in the falling out, and then the like coming back into. I think patience is yeah. I like patience as a stance or as a posture. It's a patience as a something expansive. As a an expansive move of, like, you know, allowing for noticing, right? Allowing for the right time. I associate patience with intentions, you know, or desires, and like as a it's like the opposite of a grip or a clinging or like a need. Instead, it's like it's like a softening or an allowing. It's like an expansive kind of openness to seeing when the conditions are there for action. that integrating a notion of possibility beyond self, like that feels right. It's a something of a trust, yeah? A trust beyond self. I feel hurt.
All right, just to intervene. Sorry. Um, yeah. Okay. Now your step is to basically name what you appreciate about his proposal, and then make your own proposal. Something that you can do is to really start the sentence by "I propose that," and also a valid move is for the listener to ask. So, what would the proposal be, right? Like to try to re-summarize it, to reformulate it. Victor?
Christina, forgive me. Forgive me for interrupting. I'm noticing, and I need to name that, like, we are recording the session, and yet, like, I didn't mention that beforehand. So, like, I wanted to bring that up and ask for your consent. The second thing was, I'm noticing that the bots that's doing the recording doesn't see you. So I wanted to invite you to refresh and rejoin. Forgive, forgive the interlude.
We're gonna practice patience. Welcome back.
Thank you for giving it a shot. Hopefully it works. We'll see whether we'll see whether that helped, but feel free to come back in.
Gavin, are you aware that of the next how the circle is going?
It's me next.
It's you doing the active listening right now. So she's
Cool.
doing the composing, and you're doing the active listening.
Yeah. Are you complete, Christina? I've got what you said. When I heard you, I was embracing unknown was evoked for me. That if you have unfelt or unseen, unheard, I think were the terms. It's a space of not knowing and becoming comfortable with every aspect of not knowing. Cool. I liked how you were able to highlight one part of being in relationship with time, that there's a nowness to that. And possibly an almost blossoming. Or emergence. If I heard you right. So for me, I'm reminded of a saying that became very mantra for me is practice is perfect. Not that it makes perfect, that we're constantly in the practice. And the refining and annealing process of patience. And that it's not and that initially it can be an intentional process, and that it can become so transformative that it's inherent to the sense of self, that it becomes synonymous with self.
What I'm hearing is like you started talking about how patience is to be in relation with time, like rephrasing Christina, and then focusing on the now, and in a sense focusing on a timeless aspect of it, especially of practice. The practice never ends. The practice is the thing. Practice is perfect, and practice evolves into becoming such second nature.
Yeah.
So what would the proposal? All right. Okay.
Yes.
So what I appreciate from this is this there's this relationship between patience and time. There's something intriguing about that, because patience is about, I guess I'm gonna start proposing. I have to explore this. So patience, in a way, is about relinquishing an expectation in the now, so that it may emerge in the future. There's something that I value, something that is precious to me, and patience is the realization that it's not now, that there is a way that I can be that will increase the probability of that happening, which is simultaneously a giving up on it happening right now.
I am hearing and I guess this is a question. I'm hearing still expectation. If it is not now, is it at all?
Still expectation.
Is there expectation and patience?
It feels to me that patience somehow is okay. I'm wondering whether there is a way of formulating it that doesn't involve a future. So there is a way of being. Patience is a way of being that allows something to happen that wouldn't otherwise. Allowing for a process to take its time. Something about trusting that a process is good, and trusting the process, and kind of letting go of that, of the outcome. Yeah, there's still something about time and about future.
I'm hearing that patience is about well, I'm hearing that patience is now. Regardless of future. Perhaps. I might be projecting.
I mean, to me, there is a distinct sense that patience still is about the future. about allowing something to grow without forcing it to happen quickly or immediately. And yet, yeah, it is a way of being in the now.
I hear that patience is waiting.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, what's the difference between patience and waiting? Yeah, to me they are synonymous, I'm noticing, but maybe there is a difference. What is the difference? I feel heard. Sorry. I don't know if we should close it off with you doing the appreciation, because otherwise, yeah, all right.
I appreciate the honest exploration and the process of refining an idea. I guess that's not really about your proposal, but about the way it was proposed.
That's okay. Okay. And now the last phase of this practice is let's imagine that patience is here between us, among us, and we are now going to go into free flow speaking, if you feel like speaking, if you feel called to speak. Oh, wait, where is Patty? She left. Ah, no, okay. Back.
Yes, hi.
All right. I was going to say that now we're going to move into free flow speaking. If you feel called to say something about this virtue, we're just going to talk with the sense that virtue is among and between us. Victor?
Before we do that, I wanted to extend an invitation for a moment to return to centeredness.
All right.
Perhaps we can return with, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
I had this strong feeling that I don't know how it makes sense logically, but that patience is breath.
Patience is breath, like I can feel the distinction between tightness in it and an ease in it.
There have been a number of moments in the process where I kind of suddenly the awareness appeared of like, right now you are actually doing it. You're actually practicing it. And then forgetting again.
There's a quality that came up as I was listening to everybody about some kind of a different way of seeing that resonates like a faith, like a belief, that there's something about believing that goes with patience as a quality that distinguishes it, I think, separately from, for example, this question of waiting. That was so interesting, I think.
Hmm.
That waiting involves a quality of knowing that isn't there in patience.
I was also feeling into the distinction between waiting and patience. And like when you're waiting in a line, yeah, you can see the end and you can see how you're getting closer to the front. You're not necessarily patient. You're waiting for something in the future, but you can wait in line patiently, or you cannot. So I feel like there's this element of patience where, yeah, it is an inevitability, but it's the way that it's a way of waiting.
Yeah. I noticed that move too, like through like looking at patience and waiting, and was reminded of something that Eckhart Tolle had said of noticing the distance or that difference while being in the moment of when one might be waiting, and it seemed like a release of something, where there was no longer waiting, there was simply being. Second, like another distinction that came up was the distinction between equanimity and patience. I feel like patience holds some element of like expectation or future, but it's a posture in the moment, right? The same way that equanimity is like a posture in the moment. But equanimity is not expecting or intending anything. So patience as a posture, it seems a way of like anticipating when, you know, the moment arises. But not like an active anticipation.
What comes up for me when I listen to this distinction between equanimity and patience is the difference between how we might describe relationship to an event, by which I would suggest patience describes perhaps this quality of that relationship. And in equanimity, I think of our relationship to context, to some a greater sort of amalgamation of events or objects. Um, so I wonder that you could be almost embodying both simultaneously, that you could be held by equanimity and patient in respect to an event.
I'm feeling a certain balance in patience, and like it is a relationship, and it's something that you don't necessarily get because you're giving it from like another human. Just because you're bringing patience to the table does not mean you will receive it. But it's like a gift. I mean, it's a relationship to self. It's a gift to self, because even if you are not receiving patience, you may bring it to the table, and it's at the table if you've brought it. And so whatever reaction you're having or you're getting from someone else, the patience is still there if you hold on to it. Like whatever their reaction is, you can be patient with that. So it's like if you have a strong foundation in patience, it's not something that can be overwritten.
Noticing the connection between, I think what had come up as immutability, and then what Betty had said of not, not being overwritten. Some correspondence there.
Definitely feeling into the spaciousness of it. It's the opposite of clinging in a way that forces things, but more like allowing for a space where things will take their time or may take their time. I'm also feeling a strong sense of like patience is a relationship with something. Like that has a certain solidity to it. Kind of, what is it that calls for patience? What are the circumstances that make it necessary? So there's something there that has a bit of a. There's something that requires patience.
I'm thinking about like running out of patience, and how I think committing to patience is also, it's really important to like know your boundaries and know how much patience you have, because if you want to show up with patience, you have to know how much you have to give. Like a practice of patience could be saying no more of that. I don't have any more patience for that, because I will remain patient and I can't with that anymore.
Interesting.
Patience is a process of metabolizing.
Yeah, I'm feeling this distinction that's coming up with how we orient to entropy, how we orient to disorder, chaos, to things falling apart.
Mm. I'm definitely feeling the need to be patient around figuring out what patience is. Mm.
It's happening in a need to be patient.
Mm.
I wondered about what you said earlier with equanimity, Victor. It took a little while for me to grasp it. That, like, as with patience becoming second nature, does it come into equanimity? Because patience seems to have a quality of, like Christina said, of time to it. Because it has a relationality, and how equanimity becomes almost independent. It's like so radically independent of relationality. It's just an intrinsic quality.
I like that. Kind
But
of.
there's this. Please, Nick.
So the highest art of patience is equanimity.
I'm reminded of times when I felt my patience was a virtue, and then in hindsight learned that it was a denial of self.
Mm.
Can you say more on that?
Yeah. There's a patience in relationship and a wanting change, like an allowing for it to happen, and then perhaps it was. That's interesting. So perhaps it wasn't patience. Perhaps it was something else. But in the moment, if like my remembering it, I'm remembering dissatisfaction and remembering, a want for change, and a not knowing of how to enact it, and so believing I was in patience for the change to occur, without really knowing like how to bring it about. So it felt like an allowing, and it felt like a virtue to express it as patience. But something changed. Something changed where, like, I no longer could name it as patience, and so needed to make a change. And it could be that it was patience all along, and noticing when time was right for a change.
Mm.
It's interesting to try to do the attunement and discernment move in retrospect. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like suffocating needs.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm feeling like the field of blowing up. Like, so we were focused on patience, and now I'm feeling okay. So there is a there are many things around, floating around patience. So there is impatience, there is anger, there are boundaries, needs, and I don't know exactly what the relationships are between these things, but it feels like I'm seeing a bit more into these relationships, just a little bit.
What's alive in my mind is Batty is talking about patience as, and then the relationship with patience and boundary.
I was just recognizing my own waning patience, and I realized that it wasn't like any kind of relational with any of y'all or like a conversational. I was recognizing that my body was thirsty and it was cold. And so I got some water and I got my sweatshirt so that I could continue to show up with patience, which is like those boundaries. Like, how am I going to continue to be patient? Because that is what I'm going to do. How can I set myself up for that?
That makes me think of the first thing that you said, Batty, which is the patience is love. And I think I was confused when you said that at first. But in my mind, the way I interpret it after this conversation is, or in this conversation is, that it's a quality that arises perhaps from a position that we call love. Like the position itself would be love, and patience necessarily has to arise from that place. Otherwise, it's possibly coming from somewhere else, which I think Victor's alluding to. It might not be patience. So it's sort of the question of what is the soil that patience grows its roots in.
It may also help. I believe specifically what I said is that love is patient. Not necessarily that patience is love. Love, patience is a quality of love, which is what you're saying, I suppose.
Yeah.
There is something about that, yeah. And love is infinitely patient. And it's interesting how, for me, like it immediately calls for a balancing virtue, something like, okay, love is that, and it's also something that balances it out, which I don't have a name for. I don't need a name for. I don't feel that need right now.
It's coming up as like, again, this distinction between like waiting and patience. That a waiting is a waiting with expectation of like bounded time, maybe. So if love is like is infinite, is patient, like infinitely patient, right? What is the relationship, between that infinite patience and instead this concept of bounds? So patience seems like patient in relation to something.
There's
As
something
to-
about it. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to then add a contrast between that and tolerance. For
Mm-hmm.
example, the tolerance for cold, the tolerance for thirst.
Mm-hmm. The tolerance for stupid replies to your tweets.
Interesting how tolerance would almost imply that there is another. To me, the mental imagery is that it's two separate things, but that like patience is the process of like expansion, drawing it back into metabolism, becoming more inclusive, and like self-expansion is the process of patience. And the ability, when you've reached your limit of patience, you've kind of expanded as far as your like I'm not quite sure of what the term would be. You know, like there's the swelling process in something and how it kind of reaches like a critical point where it can't expand further before it can like, just like with growth, you know, you have the if you went through puberty all at once, you know, there would be so much dysfunction. So there has to be this like back and forth of your body recalibration. Maybe that's the word I'm thinking of. That, you know, you reach your level of your maximum amount of patience, and then your like sense of self has to recalibrate.
I want to offer reattune.
Yeah. Reattune.
There's a theme of transgressing some like known, even perhaps material boundary, that in a way being patient implies like a non-acceptance of a particular boundary, and that non-acceptance is in service to a greater, you know, it is this equanimity. It's in service to equanimity, perhaps. So there is a confinement. There's a value there in place. Perhaps even on both sides, if we root in love and reach for equanimity.
I feel optimally confused.
I feel some things are like coming into resolution or focus, or like, yeah, I'm feeling like a relationship between patience and equanimity is like, you know, an enactment of equanimity. You know, it's in attunement with the relationship or circumstance. You know, like awareness and discernment that like what's of something to manifest but isn't or hasn't. It's an awareness of what is, and an awareness of, I guess, what's desired, and being attuned to that those things don't match. And there's a move that could be very active and masculine, which is of taking action to try to rectify that tension, or something that maybe is like more feminine and allowing of the time in which or allowing for like the manifestation to happen, to become manifest, and also like an attunement, remaining in attunement to what is and what's wanted, and then we came into that aspect of like reattunement, which to me means like it's fallen out and it's no longer patience. Or maybe not no longer patience, but then a time to act.
Shall we close it here? Is everyone okay with that?
Feels good to me.
So I recommend that in the following days you pay attention to perhaps effects of this practice. And let's shake a bit. And if you feel like, right, comment, feedback, impressions from this practice or set of practices.
Thank you for facilitating this, Nick.
Yes. Thank you, Nick.
For joining.
I liked it, or rather, like, yeah, I felt, I felt that was generative, and like, I feel, I would welcome doing this again.
I find it challenging, in the best possible way, challenging in a generative sense. The growing capacity for listening and engaging with anyone that, I listen to throughout the day is so critical. And this is, I think, other than Vipassana meditation, in my own experience, has been probably the most informative.
It's what a great reminder. It oftentimes in our experience in a day, there are many things that are automatistic, and the intentional process of examination is anything but that.
I have a question about the last segment. Did you feel like it was too long, too short, just right? Do you think it would be better to add a time limit, a timer, or Is it good to kind of feel into a good place to end it? What do you think?
I noticed that. So I feel as though like there's this thing that happens in dialogue that I've noticed, where like it feels like the song has come to an end, you know.
Mhm.
Uh, and so like I think like the that it might be worth at the beginning of that phase, right, to just to be patient. I don't know. I was going to say be patient for, but I think it's something like maybe like let's notice
Mm.
if we feel the song has come to an end.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. Like to give everyone this cue, right? To hear. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Second, in the stage prior where we were doing the that circling kind of practice, we went one round, and I felt as like actually I felt myself wanting to do a second. I
I
don't know
think we
how
did
many
two, no?
rounds is the right. I feel like my recollection is we did one. But
Ah, wait,
I
one
don't
round.
know.
Wait, the proposals or the other one, or the circling?
Might have been the proposals.
Okay, yeah, we did one round of the proposals. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
My only comment would be on this feedback is that with just this number of people, I feel like for me, coming in as a newcomer, I was able to get a lovely sense of each person here. And had there been more people, I would have perhaps wanted to break it down into smaller, more intimate groups. So I think we've maximized this experience with the number of people here.
Mm.
Yeah.
I felt that as well, that we have enough people and that maybe one more, but not more than
No.
that.
In fact, I was. Yeah, I think that four is probably the ideal. Yeah. I've done it a number of times with just two people. Works as well. But it's nicer to hear a number of proposals before. Uh, yeah.
Not having like done the practice before, like yeah,
Mhm.
I felt like yeah, this felt like if there were more, that would have maybe felt yeah. There seems to be like a right size,
Yeah.
and like I felt okay to me.
Something that I want to say is that what we are doing here, that like the is comes from the foundation of our civilization. You know, like Socrates, that's what he did. He talked to people about virtues. He explored virtues, and from then on, you know, like dialogue about virtues is kind of like the foundation of so much that came later, right? And so it is a bit of a recovery of that.
Mm.
I find myself curious about uh, like appropriate contexts for this or similar practice. That is like an intuition that like the practice may like clearly like as we've done here, like applying it to exploration of or feeling into like a virtue. That seems amazing. It's like a curiosity of like what else
Mhm.
or where else.
Yeah.
I'm going to excuse myself from the room as I do have to leave, but I'm so grateful, and I really look forward to the next one of these that I get to join with you all. So thank you very
Cool.
much.
Very
Take
nice.
care.
Nice to meet you.
Delighted,
Nice to
Christina.
meet you.
Bye,
See
Christina.
you next time.